signed up that wants to speak. If you want to speak, you need to sign up here, and we'll just go right down the list eventually. And also, there's a few handouts out there, I think, that might be remaining with the budget information for this year. And Micah, I appreciate you putting that together again this year. So, has everybody kind of had a chance to look at it at all, or? I don't really have a lot planned or put together here. I guess I just thought with the handout and everything. So this year's budget, another thing that we'll be acting on is the capital improvements plan, also the salaries. So we'll have that also. So first of all, we'll go with the capital improvements plan. I don't think that we don't have that today. Oh, you did. Do you want to do that? I don't care. We can start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Capital improvements plan, as far as what we're doing for fiscal year 19, we had in there sidewalk repair, carpet in the courthouse. The sidewalk repair was at the county office building. Ceiling tile in the courthouse, sidewalk repair at the law enforcement center, and also the HVAC controls in the law enforcement center for a total of $75,000. If anybody would like a copy of this, you can get this afterwards too. We can make some copies for you. What we proposed for next year, and we work with Jody on this. Jody's the one that sees this every day, so he's the one that kind of comes up with what's going to need to be repaired and fixed. Okay, here you go on the screen. So we have $95,000 in budgeted in capital improvements to do the remodeling in the conference room. Here in this conference room, we're going to be, with the HVAC system, we're going to be removing this here, the loud heating and cooling system, and we're going to be doing some repair on the walls and that type of thing. So that's $20,000. Then with tables and chairs for in here, carpet, tuck pointing of the courthouse itself, elevator update for the courthouse, and elevator update for the county office building. So we've got $95,000 in this year's, this next year's budget to do these things. It just depends. We don't always get these things done because due to budget, if something comes up in the middle of the year that needs repaired, some of these things just get shoved down to the next year. So these are not guarantees. They're just, this is a plan, and hopefully we get to some of them, if not all of them. Do you want to
I'll make a motion to approve the capital improvement plan.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'll second. And aye, okay. Action on the compensation board's recommendation. Actually, the compensation board met this past winter or fall and recommended a 2.8% increase across the board for all of the elected officials. So those are the figures that have been added into the budget. So at this time, I would entertain a motion on compensation board's recommendation or comments.
I'll make a motion to approve the compensation board recommendation.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? Julie?
Did, Supervisors, did you guys get a 6% last year? Is that right?
I can't even
I
tell.
think it was 7 something.
Was it?
I was thinking it was 7 1/4.
7 1/4.
I don't remember.
So that.
We had the job study done, it's been 3 years ago now, something like that. So there were adjustments made to everyone's, because the job study was done comparing to other counties in the
Right.
state and that type of thing, so.
But what about regular, like Megan's, employees? I mean, we have one that paid $11 an hour, is that true? And, seasonal
These are,
part-time,
well,
but
at first,
still.
we're just acting on the elected
Yes,
officials.
and so I really don't think since you got a 6% or whatever it was last year, then, you know, another 2.8%. To be realistic and be, budget minded and, yes. I thank you, but thank you.
Anything else? Okay, all those in favor? Say aye. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the public hearing on the budget. Okay. You have that. So we evidently have and this I'm sure was given to us, the compensation increase resolution.
No, that's what you just did.
This is the only thing we had, but I know Nancy has given it to us.
Oh,
I
it was,
saw
I'm
it.
sorry, it was shown on the board, so I assumed
Okay.
that's what you were acting
Okay.
on, so it's the formal repetition of what you just said.
Right, it's just a resolution that adopts.
I think he has it right there.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Make a motion to the approval of the compensation increase resolution.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Roll call.
Oh,
Lance?
Aye.
Renee?
aye. Okay, now the public hearing. So we'll open the public hearing on the fiscal year 1920 budget. Can you just give a kind of an overview?
Sure.
Process?
Yeah, if I can use yours.
Certainly. Sit up here.
Yes, that's what I wanted. So the process I do to do the budget every year is similar from year to year, and this is my 10th year here, so I'm gonna say it's either my 10th or 11th year of doing a budget. It starts at the department head level, and each department head submits a budget to me that then is translated into one overall county budget. And the county budget is not easily divisible by departments once it's published in the paper. I can't just pick and choose, you have to actually come and see me to get the individual department budgets. At the state level, and what they ask of us counties to publish is always done by a service area, and we're divided into service areas that include public safety. I'm gonna turn to a part in your handout so you can follow along. If you look at the one that's published in the paper, the overview, it's divided out into the service areas down below where it says expenditures operating. Public safety and legal services is service area 1. It goes down then into physical health, social services. I won't read this whole thing to you, but you get an idea that each service area encompasses multiple things, but they group them similarly together according to service area. The reason I say it's not easily able to pull out a departmental thing and see what's going on is, for example, in public safety and legal services, You have the sheriff's department operating out of that budget. You have the county attorney operating out of that budget, as well as clerk of court, those types of things. Those are all three lumped together, and then they create those numbers that are then published in the paper. So as an overview, this just kind of shows where your money's centered according to service areas and what we spend that money on. Then we levy taxes based upon funds, and the funds that support each of those service areas can be multiple funds taking care of one service area, or it might be one fund, one service area. So going by funds, this is the part that translates into dollars that you're gonna pay on your tax bill. And overall, the countywide levies, meaning the dollars that everyone is gonna pay no matter where you live in the county, whether you're a city resident or a county resident, that overall levy is down 48 cents per $1,000 evaluation, meaning we're taxing you less at that level. The rural services levy, which is applied only to those that are outside the corporate limits of cities, that typically are the ones that are the farmlands, what you think about, those that are taxed at the rural services levy, that is up 35 cents overall per $1,000 evaluation. But your total tax bill, if you live in the rural area, is still going to be less than it was the year before, because the countywide levies that were down overall absorbed what went as an increase to the rural. And so overall, those people in the rural areas will still see a levy decrease of 12 cents per $1,000 evaluation. The most obvious question would be to ask, why is rural services levy up 35 cents per thousand? Most of it had to do with the fact that that fund balance is not going to be so great for me to start the next year, due to the fact that we took some of the property tax relief and moved it out via the local option sales tax referendum that was just passed at the last election for secondary roads uses in addition to what they get. You were better at explaining what it was, but it was basically the maintenance and the bridges and that type of projects.
Surface, gravel, pavements, bridges, I believe one other service area. But it's for the service, not for equipment, not for labor. It's roughly about 270,000.
Correct. And so when you take that out of the fund balance that I carry over from year to year, I have to replace that. And the only way to replace that and to sustain us going forward was to increase the tax levy to replace that loss to that fund. Overall, like I said, I'm pretty pleased that no one is going to see a gigantic tax bill because of that, because the overall county levies were down considerably. They absorbed that, and so the farmers aren't going to see a gigantic increase because of that. That's my general overview. You can certainly ask me questions, but I thought that was just the easiest way to explain what that was. Yeah.
Does that include the decrease in property value? General overall decrease in property value?
Yep, so what happens is the valuation report is done in December and filed with the state. And overall, for the county level, our valuation was decreased slightly from what it was last year. However, when you take the property taxes being decreased and you apply them to that valuation, you're still going to end up having relatively the same amount of dollars to work with to sustain you from year to year. We didn't have to tax as much because we ended up having finished 2017-18 with more dollars than what we had planned on our budget. So we ended up with higher balances to start the next year, which we're currently in, and we didn't know that we would have those high of balances. So some of this includes the reason the levy rates went down isn't necessarily because valuation went up, because it didn't. It actually decreased, but we were saved by the fact that we ended up with higher revenues in our reserves that we hadn't planned for at all, therefore we didn't have the opportunity to spend them. They're coming into this here budget as planned expenditures down of that fund balance. There's no need to carry over such a high fund balance.
Along with that, we're putting $1 million into capital projects.
That you're not financing, correct?
Right.
To help pay for the HVAC system. And we put $1 million in this year and $1 million into this current budget, which takes care of the HVAC.
Does anybody have any other questions for Jessica or questions on this before we go to people that signed up to speak? Okay, thank you. Okay, Brent, Harry.
You want to go for something?
Morning, Adam.
I've got, Renee, BJ's not here, evidently?
No.
No, that's too bad. I was kind of going over the IRVM budget, I guess, Megan, you in particular. I was just going to go over some numbers. 17-18 got a budget of $151,000. I'm just going to use round numbers to make it easy. You spent 104 of that. 18-19 you were 171. You spent 62, which you'd have 31 left. And then you proposed 282,000 for this year.
What do you, on this, I'm following your paper here.
For 19-20, it's 282.
Okay.
Just,
I just will tell you right off, Megan did come in this morning and she did adjust a few of her figures.
oh, okay.
So she might have some answers for you.
Okay. Well, I guess the point I'm getting at is we used to spray the entire county with 2 outdated trucks. You were given newer equipment with not the same results.
So the spray truck, when I started, it had the tank on it with the injection systems that were taken off.
Okay.
That truck could not be calibrated. So in order for us to be legal per the state, we would have to be able to show that we can calibrate that truck, which we couldn't, because the injection systems were taken off, which then the computer can't do your calibration.
Sure.
That's how that was set up. So we sprayed with the handgun most of the time. When you handgun, you don't get nearly as much done because you're not driving, you're actually walking the ditches. So we
Right.
did get spraying done the first couple of years. Then it went in to get fixed, so we could use the injection system sprayer. And when it was at Sprayer Specialties, and Renee and Lance were there, they said it was gonna take them like 2 months, and it took them almost a whole entire year. So we didn't have a spray truck for a year, so we did use the pull behind for a little bit. And then in one of the recorded meetings, it was said that it was not safe to use because you're standing in the bed of a truck, just lobbing herbicide all over the place.
Okay.
So then we stopped using it. Then we got the two new trucks will be this year. Those are all gonna be legal and ready to go. One of them is done. The other one, the bed is coming in the next 2 weeks. Then the sprayer will get done, so we'll have them by like April.
So for the most part, all your equipment purchases are done.
Yeah, there's no more.
Okay. How many employees do you plan on hiring or wish
Well,
to
so
hire?
it'll be myself and the full-time, and we would like to do, and that was one of the numbers that, for whatever reason, I was thinking the fiscal year was January to December, but it's July to July.
Right.
So that number for seasonals will go down. So when I had a meeting with the board, I wanted to do, I believe, 13 an hour. They wanted to hire 2 people at 18, but for us to get all of our equipment out, if I could do myself, the full-time, and 4 seasonals, it would be 2 people spraying herbicide out of the Kubota, because one drives, one will walk, and then 2 people, and the trucks I got are single-man operation, so it'll be 1 person per truck. Then the other two would chainsaw and hydro seed as weather permits.
Okay.
So, and that number would go down to, if we were able, which we haven't figured out yet what rate we wanna hire our seasonals at. If it is 13 an hour for 4 people, for the fiscal year, it would be 74,880, and that would take it down off of the one.
Well, correct
So
me
it would
if I'm
take it
wrong.
$33,000 off.
With your new numbers, just go ahead and put yourself in the budget here, but you're at $282,000. Has that been adjusted this morning?
I don't think, well, I don't know how it works.
And I'm talking you, another full-time employee, IPERS, insurance, all that stuff, comes to about $282,000.
Yeah, probably.
And that's all line item off what you gave to the county.
Mhm.
That seems like a lot of money.
Well, and I think the FICA and IPERS, that's all set, that's not me.
Right. But it's still gonna come from somewhere. And then, so 17, 18, you spent $1,000 in fuel, and that was because of the truck repairs, and you just were.
We didn't have a lot of equipment at that point, because we didn't have the tractor, we didn't have the spray trucks, we didn't even have a hydro seeder, we just
So
had
you had
our.
nothing to burn the fuel in, obviously.
Correct, well, and the other thing is, I didn't find out till like a few weeks ago, I didn't know that you could move the amounts from the line items around. So I was thinking the budget amendments, I couldn't use that line item because only for that specific item.
Mhm.
So when we didn't have the spray trucks, that 10,000 for herbicides stayed there, when I could have moved it around, but I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, this year will be different than what's on there now, given that information.
So in years past, you did $6,000 to $8,000 in repairs. We've got all new equipment now, and you're budgeting for $20,000 in repairs?
No, that's just if something, so the tractor we have, it's more expensive, like the oil there's gonna be more oil, because it's a bigger tractor. So that's, I think, what was our oil change? It was like I think we spent like $200 and some in oil for the oil change when the tractor got to 200 hours. So there's just, you have to do the tractor maintenance. So because it is a bigger tractor, we are gonna need more supplies to fill it and change the oil and the fuel filters and all of that stuff. And then we also have the diamond mower on it. That also is a different set of filters that has to be changed. And so this is kind of our test year to pinpoint exactly how much we're going to need.
Okay. Good enough. Yep. Okay.
Right.
My name is, my name is Brent Perry. I live in Eldora, and I just had a couple things that I wanted to say here today. Number one, I feel like roadside management is important. I feel like brush control is an important thing that we need to do in the county, and I feel like weed management is important. We got to keep noxious weeds back, and in the last year, we've been waiting on equipment. We've been met with a lot of excuses as to why things aren't getting done, such as equipment being broke down. I know farmers that take equipment down to Sprayer Specialties to be fixed all the time, and it doesn't take an entire year to get it fixed. We've been met with excuses like the spray nozzles are broken. Well, go buy a new $150 spray nozzle so that we can get the weeds sprayed. We have areas, this is personal to me because this is in front of my business, just south of Eldora. But we have areas that were perfectly good brome grass. In the last 2 to 3 years, they've been sprayed with Roundup to try to establish wildflowers and native grasses in an IRVM program, and it's been an absolute train wreck. Ever since those areas were sprayed with Roundup, they've been infested with wild parsnip, bull thistles, musk thistles, Canadian thistles, and nothing's been addressed with this.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I think the spraying of that and the wildflower thing was done before Megan was here, I just want to clarify.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not pointing the
Okay.
finger at Megan. I'm pointing the finger at the thought of why we would go out and spray perfectly good brome grass to try to establish
I agree.
wildflowers. I've got pictures going back starting on June 18th from in front of my business of wild parsnip, thistles, and I've talked to Megan and the supervisors about all these. And here we are on August 30th, all those weeds going to seed. Wildflower seeds blowing all over. These are not wildflowers, sorry, noxious weeds. So, I guess what I would like to say is I'm not opposed to spending money to take care of these problems, but I think we need to be fiscally responsible when we take care of, or when we're spending the county money. And controlling noxious weeds is something that needs to be done, and to allow them to flourish under the watchful eye of our county weed commissioner is not a good situation. Megan and I had multiple conversations about trying to take care of these weeds. And from my pictures, starting in June 18th, all the way through the end of August, nothing was done about it all last year. I truly am concerned. My 4 minutes isn't up. You can ask your questions when I'm done here. Going back to years prior to when this was established, we used to spray the county ditches, and I'm not going to say that it was done perfect or that it was done good. There was probably room for improvement, but we used to do it on about a $100,000 budget. In 2015, 2016, we spent $204,000. 92,000 of that was equipment. The difference was fuel, chemicals, labor, that kind of stuff. In 2016, 2017, we spent $102,000. So in those 2 fiscal years, in 15, 16, 16, 17, we averaged about $100 in labor, fuel, and that kind of stuff. Right now, we're looking at a 2019, 2020, unless it's been changed this morning, of about $400,000. This is a huge increase. And this is all coming at the expense of the county taxpayers, in particular, if I'm not wrong, rural residents, because it's rural money that funds the IRBM program. It would be my opinion that this program needs to be put back under the watchful eye of secondary roads, where it can be managed appropriately and without the abuse and waste of hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money. Thank you.
So that amount will go down significantly on the changes, but also we did handgun that whole area in front of your shop in August when we borrowed Conservation's sprayer, because we did the Pine Lake area and then we sprayed in front of your building. But that's the first thing on my list to try and fix.
This picture from the end of August, as these bull and musk thistles are going to seed, is proof that it was not sprayed.
He sprayed with me, we were together, so.
And if the size of the trees in the ditches,
This is public hearing, you need to come up and speak. You're not to question the person, you're here to speak to the board.
I am speaking to the board. If the size of the trees in the ditches, and by your own admission, it
Donna,
hasn't
Donna,
been done properly.
Donna, come up, please.
And actually, we have another speaker in between.
Well,
Landon.
Good afternoon, Landon Ferris from Union. Following up is looking over the budget this year, and I understand it's maybe a little less now, but the last few years leading up to this, we had some big equipment purchases, and if we needed some of those, that's good. But as we're moving into this year, if we take the equipment purchases out of the last 2 years' budget, we're up about 2.5%, and that may go across everything else for a grand total of roughly $400,000. I guess my question to the board would be, do we have to have an actual IRBM, or can the ditches be grass and taken care of, or what all does the IRBM net us, I guess?
IRBM's not mandated, is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
No, it's not mandated, not every company.
but right now that, underneath that, they're taking care of our trees and the ditches and things like that.
Yes.
I understand that, but, yeah, I guess just looking at that budget, 2.5 times the budget with no equipment purchases, I just can't really track all the line items where all that's gonna go and what's that going to net us as taxpayers. After the local option sales tax, I think I heard Lance say 270,000 going back into roads. I think that's great. I just think we could trim this program down a little bit, still make it work for Hardin County, and put some more money into our roads and not necessarily our ditches, I guess. That's all I've got.
I'd also like to mention, I know he said we had $96,000 in purchases, but I also had over $15,000 in grants come in, so that's money that the county got back.
That's
And that was the Kubota and the spray unit, and then those surveys.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay, Donna, you wanted to be crossed off, but you wanna get Peggy?
Yeah.
Okay.
While I'm quite certain these three gentlemen were taught very well their facts, it seems to me that this is becoming a hit piece on IBRM,
I heard you.
whatever. And it's common knowledge that certain people did not want this program, still do not want this program. But by your own admission, trees in the ditches were not being taken care of. That's why they got so big. By your own admission, it's gonna take her a while to get caught up. By your own admission, she was not left with a lot of equipment. Except a few small tools. I think it is extremely unfair for a hit piece to be arranged. I think it is extremely unfair to blame her for work that, by your own admission, was not done in the years before. If she needs to be taught how to do a budget, she should be given that chance. And it can take up to 5 years to get it all figured out. I don't think this was fair. Nobody else's department has been hit on. And I think it's also obvious that there are still people who do not want this department. Give her a chance. Give her time to figure it out. Give her time to get the equipment she needs that you admitted she was not given in the first place. That is not fair. And if it's because she's a woman, that's not right.
Donna, don't even pull that card here.
No.
If that's the case, leave. Do not pull that card.
It's
Totally
painful.
ridiculous. No, it doesn't.
No, it is not.
Yeah,
Julie?
sorry.
I'm Julie Dunham from Eldora. And yes, I'm gonna have to agree with Donna. It is a hit job and those three coordinated it. And I saw your scripts and I'm not amused. She said, gentlemen, I would use that term lightly. And we already know about the settlement last November. Amazingly timed as it was. Yes, she did bring back the limit suit. Based on what happened here. Yes, so, no, it's a hit job, yeah. you know, it's not, you don't even hide it. You just wanna get rid of that, get it back into secondary roads. Controlling weeds, controlling all that stuff, it's a science. You have to be certified to do it, you have to know what you're doing. Not everybody does that. We, in this county, they couldn't even get a branch for the county. We couldn't even say, you know, come to the Greenbelt, we're great. No, we can't even do that. We need to have someone to make this county better in rural areas. You're never gonna, you know, we don't need to be Hardin County, home of hogs and dirty water. She can make it better by making it more welcoming to tourism, then let's do it. But let's not pull this stuff because it's so achingly obvious. It's just astounding. I'm just appalled. Thank you.
If these three gentlemen got together and did this on their own, it's probably because they're all paying the rural services levy. I had no part in this. We all pay taxes, but the rural services pays more.
Because you chose to do that.
Just to
So,
be fair,
anyway.
that we brought up budget items only.
What?
Just to be fair, we brought up budget items.
Exactly, you did, and you have every right to do it. And I thank you for your comments, and I think this year Megan will have all the equipment to do her job, and hopefully, well, and we had a short talk beforehand, and there's, she's put in some reductions, which will end up going in the rural services fund, because we will still tax.
How much of a reduction?
Do you know the depth?
It's over 35,000, but it'll be more once we figure out how much we're gonna pay seasonals.
Is that over all the line items or just one?
It's like
Do
3
we have a
line
copy of the
items.
new?
No,
No, it's just kind of
came in this morning.
hand crossed out and stuff. And we've taken out, I mean, there was a chainsaw, large chainsaw.
Yeah,
We had to talk
there's
about
3
that.
line items that'll be reduced significantly. I just don't know when I'm able to update it per se, so it has the right amounts on it.
So, Dave, do you want to just leave that open?
Well, they were running power tools out there.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the women. Okay.
I'll let it back in.
I'm sorry.
One thing that I'll point out, Adam, you asked about the line items.
Yeah.
One of them I see written on here, I didn't attend the meeting, but it says wages, part-time assistants. That line has been reduced by like 28,000 maybe.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, I'm not a
Well-
mathematician. But I do know from her coming earlier in my office, she thought when she was completing this budget that it was supposed to run from January through December,
Okay.
not July through June. And so she had actually included overlap to complete the year she was already working in.
Sure.
And so that I know was the reduction on this. The rest of it I couldn't comment on. But since you asked, I thought I'd point out that I saw it.
Can I pick on one line item real quick that I'm just real curious about? Under utilities, we've gone from a 1,000, which I would assume, and we're jumping to $4,000. I guess I'm almost suspicious if we just had some money that we just needed to throw somewhere, so we just threw it. A lot of these things are just doubled, if not tripled, and
That's your
I have
water and.
so we have the work cell phones, we have 2 work cell phones, and then the water, and then Eldora Water and Alliant Energy are the bills that we pay.
okay.
And you also pay for your septic.
Oh,
Did-
yeah, we do,
Pumping
yeah,
out
we
there,
have to
too.
get our septic
Well,
pumped.
I'm still confused. I mean, was that not the case last year or the year
So,
before?
no, because it was, I think the secondary roads was paying for the energy and they were paying for the water and Alliant Energy before, so we didn't have those in our line item.
Okay,
And then we took that over, I think, last year. is when we started paying that, or was the?
It
so
looks
we-
like-
We recently started paying those, like, within the last year or two.
Okay, so that makes sense. And then, under special projects, we went from $1,000 to $8,000.
So that's actually gonna be reduced again, because we were gonna get a chainsaw on a grant, but then.
That's part of the,
Yeah, so it's
okay.
like, so 4,000 of that is gone, and then the other 4 is, we're trying to get on the east side of the shop, little like unit built to store our mulch. So it's not taking up the bay, that way we can park the spray trucks inside. Cause we have one bay that's just all the mulch for hydro seeding, and we're just gonna have the high school kids do that.
So you don't have adequate storage, is what you're saying?
Right, we don't have enough for the 2 new trucks.
Okay.
So that would put the mulch
So then, yeah, so
outside
then
and
the
then
mulch would
storage.
go in, I was just gonna have the high school kids build like a shed, and then the mulch will go into the shed, and then where the mulch is where the trucks will go. Cause we don't wanna leave those outside because of all the equipment on it, so.
And then what about general supplies?
That's just like,
I mean, wouldn't have your chainsaw gone into general supplies?
well, it's like equipment. But that was gonna be part of a grant, which is why it was in a different line. Those 2 things were gonna be, I was gonna try and get them to be parts of a grant.
Special projects.
Yeah.
They're gonna be grant funds.
Okay.
So that's why those
But you
are in
have
a
to-
different area.
You have to pay for those first and then get reimbursed.
Well, you have to get approved for the grant before the thing can be built, and then once it's built and you get all the invoice, then you send it all in. But it has to be approved first, so if it doesn't even get approved, then it would just be like, that's what that money is in the line item.
And then one more, if I may.
Okay.
You've got uniforms on there where you're asking for $3,000. What? Are we
that would
talking
be-
like just fun stuff, like T-shirts or is this actual safety stuff that?
It's safety, and then like our shirts with, like, so people know we work for the county, and then our no next for burning.
Oh.
We have the-
Okay.
And that's one thing, I don't know what's done through most departments. I know the departments upstairs, when I was in the auditor's office, I know when we had shirts, we paid for our own. And that is something that I've kind of got on the list to talk about. I can see safety equipment,
Yeah,
county needs to pay for.
I mean, if this was all going for safety, stuff with reflective or, colors that were bright, I've got no problem with that. But if it's like a cheerleader type, hey, we work for the county, it's pretty obvious when you get out of a county truck, it was either stolen or you work for them. So I don't know that we need shirts that necessarily sweatshirts.
And I don't know if it includes any of that, but I plan on coming up with a policy that the
Okay.
county is not gonna pay for. You order polo shirts, whatever, and I don't know if people are doing that or not, but I agree, I don't think the county should pay for that.
Correct.
And that goes back years, we've all done that, but as far as I knew, like in our office, when I was in the auditor's office, we paid for our own.
All right.
And I just think that should be standard, but safety equipment, I do think.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then, actually, one more thing, the Kubota, what are you using?
That's for herbicide application and fire, for prescribed burning, and have no hold water.
Okay.
So it has dual purpose, and that was part of both the spray tank that was built to go in it, and the Kubota were both part of that.
Is this something you can drive down in a ditch?
Yeah.
And
Well, if
you don't
it's the
see
right
like
type of
you don't
ditch.
see a major liability with?
Well, we'd only drive it in if it was like a flat area, like a corner. Otherwise, it doesn't go in the ditch, it just stays on the roadside.
Okay.
Because it has a handgun, there's a wheel with a handgun on it, so that's when where somebody would drive and the other person would walk the ditch.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, you did get.
And those 2 were parts of grants, so the county didn't even pay full price for those 2 items.
All right, that pretty much takes care of the list of speakers. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, if that's the case, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
when it comes to starting the new year and doing the resolutions in June that authorize spending money, if you want to take those reductions into effect, then appropriate much less than what was presented in the fiscal.
Yep. So you're requesting I can still do it to keep the fund balance up even though you do.
Right, and my other concern is that the budget needs to be done and certified by the 15th.
Well, I was thinking tomorrow.
Oh, I understand. I thought you were thinking longer, and I'm like, a little concerned. It's the 15th.
But I
The way it
understand.
is, everything can be left the same.
It can,
We
yes.
just lowered the appropriation.
Yes, this is your adoption of your budget and certification of taxes that allows us to contact the state and say, this is what we're gonna levy.
Right.
I think even if you're reducing that particular budget, you still should levy these taxes, because levying these taxes only puts you at 17% carryover. And that's pretty slim pickings, if you ask me.
I agree.
Well, with all that information, I am okay with the adoption of approving the fiscal year 2019-20 handbook.
Okay, I'll second it. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Let's have a roll call on that, please, Lance.
Okay.
Aye.
Renee.
Aye. Okay.
So I'll just need to work with you though when it gets closer to June to have the number that you want reduced.
Right.
Right. For any department.